So what exactly is Tornado Alley? Well, Tornado Alley is this region across the middle part of the country where all four ingredients come together most frequently to make severe storms. What are those ingredients? Well, first, you got to have an unstable atmosphere. Second, you need to have warm, moist air. Third, you need to have a trigger mechanism, something to force the storms to rise. And finally, you need to have wind shear. Those ingredients are found most common through the states of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, and Arkansas. Some outlying states like New Mexico, Colorado, South Dakota, Minnesota are also kind of included in Tornado Alley, but the core states really runs right through Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois. So one of the questions I often get asked is which state has the most tornadoes? And again, the state with the most tornadoes is also the same one that has the most fatalities, and that's Texas. The reason why? Texas is a big state located in the heart of Tornado Alley. But when you take the number of tornadoes and divide it by the size of the state, Texas is not number one. In fact, when you normalize the data, Oklahoma becomes number one, Kansas number two, Iowa number three, Illinois is number four, Indiana's fifth, Nebraska is sixth, Mississippi is seventh, Maryland is eighth, Louisiana is ninth, and Texas is 10th. So far in 2011, when this video was made, which was on Sunday, May 1st, 2011, we have had 1,036 tornadoes. This is currently on path for being the busiest tornado season on record. You see, a typical tornado season has around 1,200 reports of tornadoes. Here we are, just at the very beginning of May, May being the busiest tornado month, and we are already at 1,036. When you look globally, the graphic that you see here, the red outlines where tornadoes occur worldwide. A very interesting statistic is this: 75% of the world's tornadoes are in the United States. What's interesting was that in August 2004 in France, they had one tornado, and that one tornado was in the news for 3 months. When you look at the United States, we've had almost 1,100 tornadoes so far this year, and it's barely been the big news story until the recent severe weather outbreak at the end of April. It's amazing to see the difference in perspective from the rest of the world on tornadoes and our perspective here in the United States. So if you're in the United States and you're wondering what time of day and what time of year tornadoes are most frequent, let's take a look at these top two graphs. The graph that you see here shows the time of day, that's the x-axis, and the number of tornadoes. This particular bar graph is broken up into the 6 different categories used by the F-scale. When you look at this graph, you notice it has a valley in the early morning hours and a peak in the late afternoon. The most stable time of the day is morning, and you know that you have to have an unstable atmosphere to produce tornadoes. This is why 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning is the rarest time of day to have a tornado. However, as the heat builds throughout the afternoon and reaches a peak in the late afternoon, you find that is also the same time that you have your most tornadoes. 5 p.m. is the peak time. So let's look at this next graph, which has the months of the year on the x-axis and the number of tornadoes on the y. Notice that the tornado season really begins to pick up in March, April, reaching a peak in May, a similar peak in June, and then starts to wane in July and August. The reason why this graph has this shape, building in March, April, and May, and then waning in June, July, and August, is because this is the time of year where you have your most active weather patterns. What I mean is you have these frequent passages of extratropical cyclones, which bring all the ingredients together to give you the severe weather. The graphics along the bottom here tell you the statistics for Illinois with respect to tornadoes. They mimic almost perfectly the nationwide statistics. To leave you with one kind of really interesting fact, there is one day every year that has a higher statistical probability of having a killer tornado than any other day. On this day, there is a 72% chance that somewhere in the United States there will be a killer tornado, and that day is April 3rd. So each year on April 3rd, watch out for tornadoes because statistically speaking, that day has the highest probability